Hello everyone, I'm Steve and welcome to Greenside Up. Today, sowing seeds. This is part 2 of the May sowing and it's all outside today, so we'll crack on with that. But first this, never cast a clout till May is out. And that's a saying you'll hear a lot this time of the year. But what does it mean? Now, it's one of those sayings you'll hear quoted, as I say, a lot at this time of year, and opinion varies onto what it actually means. So a few years back I looked it up and I came up with some wonderful information, and I prefer to read the information where at the bottom it says you decide what it means. Leaves it open for interpretation, and I feel that's much better. But let's have a little chat about it. Now, it's one of those strange old things. There are references going back to the 1700s, I think, and clout in there. I mean, I can remember clout from when I was a kid. You know, it was behaviour who would get a clout around the ear hole, and many were justly received. But that's just one meaning of it. Clout can also mean, as it did then, clothes. So never cast a clout, never cast your warm clothes until May is out. Then it's warm enough to get rid of your warm clothes. Another meaning is clout is clod of soil in some parts of this country as well. So there's a variation of the never cast a clout until May is out. Now, May again could be the month of May, which we've just started into now, and we've got one more frost tonight and then the weather's looking good. So that could tie in with that. But also, if you go back before hedges and hedgerows got their names, they were called hages, H-A-G-E, and the hawthorn was the predominant sort of tree bush on those hedgerows, and they were called the Mayflower. And so you could say never cast a clout, you know, never take your warm layers off, never throw some soil around until the May is out, the Mayflower. And there are other references to other things that you might have seen, like the darling buds of May, for instance. So this is where the grey area comes in, but essentially what it's telling you is to hold back on your growing until you're into the sort of late spring. Now, as a child with my grandfather, we never sowed seeds outside until 1st of May. Few seeds were sown indoors, but right then we weren't growing many of the exotic plants that we do now. I mean, for instance, we never grew pumpkins and squashes back then, and I think courgettes were quite a rarity as well. These are all things that have come in recent decades, but back then vegetable growing was fairly simple, so windowsill space was reserved for just a few plants. And we never even really had plastic bags to wrap a seed tray up in, because again, back then they were rare, and if any sort of plastic bags came into the house, they were turned inside out, washed up after the washing up was done after tea that night. They were hung up to dry and they were reused several times, you know, over the years. You know, they were a prize then. So there we go, that's where we used to be with that. So we're into May now, and as I used to do, and as I'm forced to do this year because of the frost, I'm sowing seeds outside today. So it's kind of like harking back to my very, very early childhood, which is, to me, is brilliant. So there we go. So I'm going to sow some seed at the end of this bed here. I've got my lettuce there under that fleece, you can see, and probably on Sunday that fleece will come off and I'll just leave the lettuce to their own devices. But what I'm sowing here, you can see I've got a massive bag. This is Radish, French Breakfast 2. And I'm just going to sow a little line of them down here. Doesn't need to be anything too fancy. And in 10 days, 2 weeks time, I'll sow another line and then another line the same. So we get that progression going on. So that's it, because tonight we've got what is forecast as the last frost, and then from after that the temperatures are warming up slightly. We're going to be having overnight temperatures of 7, 8, 9 degrees for the next couple of weeks anyway, and rain, and that will make these germinate super fast, and we'll be good to go with those. I'll come back and label this later. We'll move on to the next sowing now. Now this bed I've set to one side. It's got some cones in it, which is where I'm going to be putting some squash plants. And this bed will have only 3 in, and then I shall wind the vines around here and grow some squash this year in it. But in the meantime, I can use this space and get some other crops in. And I'm doing a full length row here, 16 foot long it is, this bed, of beetroot. Now, since I started no digging, must be 6-7 years ago now, and with growing beetroot in no dig, I have done nothing but multi-sow beetroot, and there's a reason for that. It's good, it works, but I haven't sown traditionally in a no dig bed, so I don't know its boundaries. So this whole row I'm going to sow traditionally. I'm going to space the seeds out in this row a good couple of inches apart and see if I can grow like I used to the great big beetroots, because they're lovely when you can just peel one, chop it up and roast it, which is what I like to do with beetroots, or one of the things I like to do. So I'm going to put 3 varieties in here. This one here, this first part of the row, is Burpees Golden, and then I've got a Chioggia which will go another third of the way along there, and then I'll finish off with the Boltardy at the other end. So we'll have a long line, 3 varieties of hopefully big beets. But we'll see what happens and how things progress. So I'll just finish off this Burpees row here. So with this warmer wet weather coming, we could all still do with some rain. I suspect it's still very dry underneath. So hopefully we'll get these seeds going nice and quickly. So that's the Burpees done. I'll do the others off camera. So there we go, 3 types of beetroot in. Okay, this is the lettuce bed, and this fleece is coming off in a day or two, and at the very end is where I've sown the radish over there. This is the butternut squash bed, and along this line where you can see the bit of stick here all the way along, I've sown singular beetroot, 3 varieties, Burpees Golden, Chioggia and Boltardy, with a view of trying to get the old tennis ball sized beets as I used to get before I started doing no dig. So the next 2 beds up are empty at the moment, and these have been sat here for quite some time now doing nothing. And this is where I'm growing my brassicas this year, and I'm going to sow in this one now as well. As this one has been sat here for quite some time doing nothing, it'll be a little bit compacted, so I'm just going to give it a quick tickle over with the claw just to loosen the soil up, and then I'll rake it over level, and then we'll sow some seeds. This just disturbs any weeds that are already germinating and starting to grow. There are a few. So using my homegrown dibber, just going to draw out a little drill along this line, roughly halfway down along this string line, and then with my nifty little seed sower, put some seed in there. And this is Turnip, Purple Top Milan. And I'm just going to sow some seed along here. These are a brassica, hence why they're going in the brassica bed, and this whole bed will be protected. I will have to thin these down at a later date, but that's all right. So there we go. some turnip sown. And again, you see, I mean, this is nice and quick. And with the wet, warm weather coming, we should get some fairly speedy results. Now, the other half of this drill, well, I'll draw another drill down the other half of this bed. I'm going to put some Swede in here, and this one is best of all. So again, just get some in my seed sower. Now, providing these seeds are still good, I don't know how old they are or how long I've had them, these should germinate fairly quickly. There we go, that's how quick it is to sow seeds. Just cover them over. I'm even going to water them, the soil's damp. And the rain we have in the next couple of days will be better for them than tap water. So there we go, there's another seed sown. So I'm in the very top brassica bed now. There's two beds here, one where I just sown the turnip and Swede, and this one here. And what I'm sowing now is a broccoli, and I think calls it green sprouting Calabrese. And I'm doing 2 rows here, and I don't mind here if I put too much. I just want them spaced reasonably evenly. Because what I'm going to do with these is once they start growing, the idea is to transplant them, move them to where I want them to grow. So in effect, it's a bit of a nursery bed. So there's 2 rows of broccoli done. Quite a teach you this seed sowing, isn't it? And it's great to be out on warm soil, I must admit. It's finally get out in this glorious sunshine. Absolutely beautiful. We've waited long enough for it. We've suffered for waiting for it. So I'll come back and properly label those. And we've got one more seed to sow up the other end. This is the last one of the day. Here I'm just going to draw another drill, and this is these also will be transplanted to where I want them, and essentially they'll be used as a kind of a hole filler really. So if something I plant doesn't grow too well, I'll rip one of these up and put it in the space. But this is rainbow chard. So it's pretty much that easy. But all in all, all this sowing hasn't taken very long at all, and with the prospect of after tonight of warm weather on the horizon and warm wet weather, all the seeds I've just sown this morning should come on in leaps and bounds. So we're very pleased with that, and as I say, it's lovely to get out here. So there we go, loads of seeds sown, lovely sunny day, what could be better? And as they say, never cast a clout until May is out. So have a look at that and see what you reckon to that. And I'm sure there are lots of regional variations, so what's your take on that saying, never cast a clout until May is out? But that's it for today. Sown a lot of seeds, very, very happy about that. It's lovely to get my hands into warm soil again. So I know we got another frost coming tonight, and then over this next week temperatures are on the rise, so that's good, and it's about blinking time as well. But there you go, that's it for me today. Look after yourselves, stay safe, and I'll see you very, very soon. Ta-ra now.